Hello everyone, my name is Kimberly Gonzalez and my course project is revolving around Florida's climate change. So, being a peninsula, Florida is very vulnerable to any changes having to do with the sea levels. Sea levels are the ocean in general. So, Florida has received a bit of damage these past few years. And the main three things that you'll see come up through this presentation are rising sea levels, floods, and hurricanes. So, Florida is not only being hurt on land, but underwater as well. This is due to ocean acidification. And then on land, agriculture is being largely hit. Homes are being destroyed. There's a lot happening in and out of the water. So, first things first, the main forcing agents for climate change happening here in Florida, I would say, are greenhouse gas emissions and melting ice caps. So both are positive feedbacks in climate change. Greenhouse gases trap heat in this atmosphere, so those will be things like carbon, methane, fluorinated gases. What those do are they'll hold on to heat and either slowly release them or just keep it trapped in the atmosphere for a very long time. And so this is what's causing like our oceans to warm. This causes a lot more evaporation of water, and a bunch of things will come from that. Melting ice caps, of course the main thing that they do is cause sea levels to rise. Now, a main thing about ice caps and why they're important for us to keep healthy and safe is they act as a shield to the earth from solar radiation. So, when the sun touches ice, it's very reflective, so instead of touching the water or earth, it kind of bounces that light up back into space. Some historical context here. The last ice age was about 11,700 years ago. This also begins human civilization. Since the mid-20th century, human activity has increased the rate of global warming. So through our proxies, our climate proxies, there's evidence that the Earth has been warming 10 times faster than the average rate. And this is because of carbon emissions from human activity, and just human activity in general is causing things to go a lot faster than they should. Since the late 19th century, Earth's average temperature has increased about 2.12 degrees Fahrenheit, and the hottest years on record are 2016 and 2020. These are both fairly recent years, and so it's only expected to increase from there. This is a graph that shows how fast Earth is warming recently. As you can see, the carbon levels in the atmosphere have never been above the dotted line in the center here, and it has rapidly increased to now. So, climate change's influence in Florida. So, specific to here, tropical storms and hurricanes are something that Florida usually gets hit by almost every year. Now, in the last, I would say, 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, these storms have been a more common occurrence than they normally would. I personally don't remember when I was younger having to watch out for so many storms in one season. However, recently there's been at least 3 that have been formed like almost every year, and a few of those will always touch land, and so it's getting a little scary because for the most part they're never under a category 3, and so that's kind of like mid-level. Highest would be like category 5, so they're not, it's not the strongest, but it's still something to be careful for. And with more storms happening every year, there's that higher chance, that higher likelihood of one of them being as dangerous as a Category 5 hurricane. So Florida has warmed more than 1 degree during the last century. Sea levels are rising, as we've talked about before, and heavy rainstorms are becoming more common within the last 20 years. So if you don't know how hurricanes work, a lot of the times, and that's why most of them die off when they're on land already, when they hit land, because hurricanes take in energy from warm ocean, or from warm bodies of water, really. So Florida has a bit of a barrier depending on where the storm is coming from with Cuba, but there's still a lot of ocean around us, and so that is just, it's a source of energy for that hurricane to constantly be growing stronger. Now another influence in Florida has to be coral reef bleaching. Now, we are not one of the main places where coral reefs are very big, they grow very big, or but they're still a very important part of our ecosystems here. So ocean acidification is happening throughout the whole world. However, in places with coral, it affects them because the acidification kills the microscopic algae that live in the coral. Now, when this happens, corals become very susceptible to disease. They risk starvation, and it's very hard for them to come back from this, because in order for them to be able to continue to thrive, everything has to go back to normal. So, they may heal, but it's going to take a long time, and it has to be at the right temperatures. So, of course, with a constant rise in temperature happening here, corals are dying off, and that's why coral bleaching is becoming so widespread and why it's not being fixed. So, it also gives them a harder time to form their skeletons, so that's another thing that hugely impacts their survival rates. So socioeconomic impacts here, the main one I would say is definitely agriculture. This is Florida's main source of income, as it is, I'm sure, with many other states. Now, higher temperatures make it a little harder to cultivate crops because it dries the soil a lot faster. It causes a huge rise in the amount of water that has to be used to be irrigated. However, as we'll soon find in our next point, water here in Florida is not going to be as easy to come by within the next years. So the Everglades, of course, is our largest source of fresh water. But human activities such as pollution and other things like that have already been hurting the Everglades for a very long time. However, with these rising sea levels due to global warming, salt water is mixing in with this fresh water, and that's a big problem because the main aquifer here in Florida is taking water from the Everglades. So if that water becomes salt water, it's no longer safe to drink for us. And not even in terms of drinking water, but that's just water used for several other things. So, what you bathe in, what the crops get watered, your sink water, everything. So that's one problem. Sea levels coming in and mixing with fresh water is also hurting the animals that live in the Everglades. It's not just us, but it is becoming a big problem. So possible mitigation here is geoengineering actions. Most of what I have researched in Florida is federal action. So one plan that they have is to collect organisms that are being affected, Noah's Ark, so male and female, or just a specimen if they're asexual, and they're putting them in controlled environments so that if we are able to fix things, we'll still have those species and they won't technically become extinct because we'll be able to put them back into their natural habitat once things become ideal for them again, hopefully, if they do. So there's a few other things here. it's mostly the main thing here is just dealing with all those organisms that are being affected. Now the next thing is to stop salt water from contaminating the underground supplies. This is a 30-year plan, however, it has been put on hold for a very long time now. The company Big Sugar, which is a sugarcane manufacturer here, is supposed to buy it, but there have been some issues with gaining traction on the plan, and so to this day it's still not in action, but hopefully soon they'll figure that out. So the outlook for this area is not the best. Hopefully with these preventative measures we'll be able to slow it down enough, or kind of halt the process, and we'll be able to fix things and try to get everything back to normal. But for right now, floods, fires, hurricanes are going to be becoming much more frequent, and it's going to be harder. You know, if things don't start acting now, people don't start acting now and trying to fix things, it's going to become way harder in the long run to try and prevent what's going to happen. So in conclusion, as I said before, it's going to be very hard to fix the damage done here in Florida, but the main thing you can do if you're a citizen of the state is to contact your federal government, try to push to put these plans in action, because a lot of them really haven't taken action and they're just put in paper, they're in writing. You can search it up from the Florida government laws and their plans, and it's all there, but a lot of them are on hold. So I would say the main thing you can do right now is just go write letters, emails, go to the government, you know, just really advocate for that change. So these are my sources, and thank you for listening.